Yo, what up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 14 of Just a Minute. As always, I'm your HoopSeen host and my partner in crime. The guy next to me on that screen is our editor-in-chief here at HoopSeen, Justin Young. JY, man, we're back. This is the episode, man, the best of the South episode. I'm still trying to catch up on some sleep here, man. How are you feeling?
I'm right there with you, man. I'm right there with you. I'm back on the West Coast. Late night flight on a Sunday, leaving the best of the South. Had a hard time leaving. Still trying to gather my voice back. Man. Can you still hear the whistles?
I hear whistles, shoes squeaking, like people yelling, foul, everything. You know, foul. It's crazy. I hear it all, man.
I know. There's no reprieve. It was funny even last night or on Sunday night when I was at the airport. There were all the teams there were multiple events happening all in the Deep South, and I saw. The NCAA at the airport. I said, man, we could run the greatest tournament of all time right now, right here at the airport, because of all the kids from all the brands and all the independents and all the events. Man, what a week it was in downtown Atlanta for us in the Best of South, our staff. I think we're all feeling the same way, but in a way, I think we're all feeling really happy with the platform that was provided for all those student athletes out there that had a chance to compete in front of hundreds of college coaches. I couldn't be happier for the teams that came and couldn't be prouder for our team that put on a heck of a show.
Yeah, man, no, most definitely, JY. You talk about setting the tone, man, for what you can say week 1 in July for the live periods. Best of the South did that.
Yeah.
The Georgia World Congress Center was crazy. People everywhere, high-level teams, high-level competition. And I'm just like you, man. I mean, when you talk about an experience for not only the players, but for college coaches, second to none. If you weren't at Georgia World Congress Center, you missed out. I'm going to say it on air first. I'm going to say it first.
Well, you're right. I mean, you missed out on a huge opportunity for your players to be in front of an insane amount of coaches that were there. And the competition was top notch. The ease of use, I think once you got into the building, you didn't have to leave. I mean, it was tremendous as far as like what the experience was. Yeah. It was cool because, we did this 2 years ago. We had the COVID year, put everything on pause. Right. It was cool talking to so many college coaches that have been with us at HoopSeen from the get-go. When we first started the Best of South, we had 24 teams total.
Man.
Total. We had 517 teams come through and compete at the Best of South. We ran over 1,400 games or 1,600 games. I can't remember the number it was in 4 days. And that's a huge, huge, huge credit to Daniel Paccioni and Ty Young for the work that they do tirelessly around the clock. Those two guys, if you see them, pat them on the back, buy them a bottle of water or something stronger if you want. They deserve it. They were really phenomenal. And Mike Eddy and his staff of getting all the courts down and up. We have if you were to go to the World Congress Center on Monday at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the morning, all those courts, everything's gone. So we wrapped up. I don't know what time we finished up, 6:30 on Sunday evening. All of those courts were put in boxes and put in 18-wheelers, and they're headed down to Orlando now for the Grassroots Basketball Summer Championship, and they're on the road. So all around, I'm really happy for the teams, and I'm really, really proud of our staff for what they accomplished. Can I run through some numbers real fast?
Man, let's do it, JY. Numbers matter. Let's go.
Yeah, so again, 517 teams, 1,400 or 1,600. I don't know. After you get past like 80, does it even matter how many games?
It doesn't matter anymore.
I think I added up. It was something like 3.5 NBA seasons, regular seasons, all combined into one weekend, which is insane. 2, we had over 350 different colleges come through the doors at Swanee Sport, at Swanee Sports Academy, at the Georgia World Congress Center. If you were there, we had this wall that we put this wall of all the images of the schools. Adding to our numbers, I had to refill the ink cartridges 10 times. We had to buy paper 4 times. We still ran out that we couldn't print off everybody in time to get all the schools up on the wall. So the opportunities, like we had schools there that I say this jokingly, not out of disrespect, but just out of being impressed by the schools that we had. I had to Google some schools because I'd never heard of them. But we also had we had Baylor and Gonzaga. We had the national title game, and Duke and Carolina and Kentucky and all the Blue Bloods, UCLA came out, Kansas. And so it was really cool to see this wide variety of schools that came out from the biggest of the biggest and the baddest of the baddest to the smallest of the smallest, and those that are still also in the recruiting game, which huge respect to all the coaches that went out there and had a chance to tackle. So I had one experience, and I'll get off of this this topic here in a second, but I was walking. I didn't, if you saw me, if you saw me walking around, I didn't get a chance to sit down and really focus too much. So I'm going to have to go back and play a little catch up, which is fine, because I would get stopped almost every chance I walked through the building, which was great. And everybody, whether it was a travel team or a college coach, and one's college coach who's been coming to our events for years, says, man, this is so good for us. They're a Southern mid-major program. And he was like, this is so good for us. And I was like looking at the court, and I was like, well, who are you watching? He said, it's so good for us because we can see guys that are out of our region that we don't normally get a chance to see. He was watching the big kid from South Dakota. And again, he's a Southern mid-major program where you never probably would ever get a chance to see this kid from South Dakota. And now this kid's probably on the recruiting list. And I think that happens so many times throughout the course of the weekend where colleges, and again, we've talked about this before on Just a Minute here on the podcast, right, Austin? Like, with the transfer portal, location, I don't think matters that much anymore to players. Like, they just want to go play and they want to go compete. Yeah. And so now you get a program from the South recruiting a kid from like the Midwest and from South Dakota. And it's just like so many things are different and changed now that I think that this platform really provided an opportunity for so many people to recruit differently now. It was cool, man. It was cool.
I totally agree. I mean, it was amazing. And the thing about, here's the thing I'm most appreciative of, JY. When we did it back in 2019, it was amazing.
Yeah.
This year topped that. And I think if we even have this in our staff meetings, our goal is to continue getting better and better. We want to continue to be the standard. And I think, man, our entire staff, everybody helped us accomplish that goal. And for it to come off of a year with COVID and nothing kind of was ever set in stone, to bring back a year later with this, man, unfreaking believable.
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge the absolutely tremendous team, the NY to LA.
Yes.
Table, and all the fine people they have in their organization, the work that they did with us. It's been a fun marriage for us this year to work with them and other partners, but for the Best of South, I thought it was cool to have those experiences that we've talked about where you may have a team like mid-pro out of Illinois who are really good as far as spacing and timing and fundamentals and half court stuff. And you've got a team, I mean, I don't mean to generalize, but like, let's just take like Florida Pro, who are big and athletic, and they really run the floor and they turn up the pace. And so to see all these different styles of basketball and players that normally wouldn't get a chance to play each other, like, here's what's happened over the last decade is that we've become very hyper local, very hyper regional, and you're playing a lot of the same teams over and over and over again. And so for the partnerships that we've been able to make, we're diversifying the competitive balance of the game. And it's so good for everybody because now you get to really sharpen your skill set. And it looked like the NCAA tournament at a youth level is what it felt like.
It did, without a question, man. Unbelievable and an incredible experience. So, all right, bro, I think it's time for us to go ahead and get to it, man.
Let's do it, man. Listen. You were posted up. So, like, we had 37, 38 courts, and we have all the staff. Usually when we so to give you a little, let me show you how the donuts
break it down.
When we have an event, I print off our entire schedule. This event was literally here. I may have it in my bag still, actually. Hold on. No, I did. I threw it away because my bag was too heavy. It was 38 pages. It was 38 pages of schedule. And it's a little daunting to go through and to schedule out for our staff. We have probably between photographers and videographers, social media and writers and scouts, we probably have 10, 12 people working for us, right?
Right.
And so, like, this one, I said, you know what, let's have you stay at one court the entire time and we'll cycle through people coming through. And you were mid-court on court 15, pretty much the duration. You saw so many dudes.
Yeah.
So many great games. Is there a game? Let me start there. Is there a game that stood out to you out of all of them? I've got a couple, and you probably have the same ones, baby.
Man, I do, man. I know the most packed game, I believe, I can't remember. I think they played 3, I believe. Team Thad and 3 Empire was
that's it.
Amazing. I mean, if you wanted a prime basketball experience, you were there. Court fit. Look at that. There it is, JY. There it is. That game, insane.
I showed this to my wife early this morning. Like, let me see here. All of that is college coaches. It was packed, bro.
It was crazy, man. And like you said, you said it like it had an NCAA tournament type feel. That game was like a champ, like it was like a championship. Everybody was there. Guys were competing left and right. you could have asked for a better, you can even say showcase game, but a game to watch that was like, man, that was awesome. That game.
I think it showed the importance of having cross-brand competition in
Yes.
July more than ever before. 3D Empire, to me, is not only one of the top independent team in the country. They're one of the top teams in the country. Yeah. Team Thad, I think, is probably one of the 3 best teams I've seen all season. They're stacked with players. And we saw high-level competition. We saw that throughout the weekend as we had different branded teams come through the event throughout the whole week. But I think that has to happen.
Yeah,
that has to happen because none of the leagues are as good as the marketing says that it is, us included. But they're not as bad as anybody thinks they are either. And so then you blend that all together, it raises the stakes of competition and you get opportunities to see stuff like that. That's not to say you don't get that at the branded stuff or even for like Bob Gibbons and stuff like that we have. But like you have to have that in order to keep raising the standard of excellence, which makes the game better. It makes the game better, man. It really does. It makes the game better. Who did you like in that game?
Oh, man. I thought Chandler Jackson came in on a mission. It was good to see him. We've seen him earlier in our events this year. Him and Solomon Washington, and then Malik Diaz. That was my first time getting a chance to kind of put eyeballs on him. But then on for 3D Empire, I don't want to take anything from them. You had guys like Anthony Black. You had guys like Terrence Ramirez, guys that stepped on the floor and proved their value. Guys that showed what they could do. And I was impressed, man. I mean, those guys competed. They guarded each other, which is what you wanted to see. Yeah. And neither team backed down. No matter if it was what, neither team backed down. I love that about them.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I mean, it was exactly. We had so many of those types of matchups, I think, throughout the course of the weekend. That one was pretty cool. It reminded me of when we had Zion playing Vernon Carey. It reminded me of Zion Emmett Williams, Zion Nasir Little from I guess that's is that 5 years ago now, 4 years ago, before he had moved into the big convention center space where it was just packed. Now the Zion crowd is going to probably always be on a standard of its own.
Yeah, that's going to be one that's called.
But still, nonetheless, I mean, even when we had Anthony Edwards playing, well, Cole Anthony came, but he didn't play. I'll just leave that on the internet to speculate. But that matchup, we always try to make sure we have elite matchups for the best of South. And again, you have a Memphis team playing a team from Texas. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's what it's all about. Yeah. All right. So you were at court 15. You stayed there the whole time. You saw so many guys. I'm with you. Chandler Jackson, to me, we only had them play maybe 1 or 2 games with us. We've seen him so many times. I think that guy is vastly underrated by the national rating services. I think he's a guy that when you get to the NCAA tournament, you win a basketball game because of him. He's so headstrong. He's so hard to slow down. Jump shot needs to probably get a little fine tuning to it. But if you can get to the rim like he can get to the rim, you'll be fine. There's a Marcus Smart toughness to him that when he goes downhill, that reminds me a lot of Marcus at that same age, is big and strong and physical. But I think Chandler Jackson's leadership is so strong that he raised. What did you see that from your vantage point there on the sidelines?
You can see about his court presence. What's funny about that, I even had the opportunity to speak with Chandler in the interview after the game, and you could see the way. Here's the thing, J-Wall, when I get to do these interviews with players, I'm evaluating them as well. And that's what I think. I've tried to tell players that a lot. I really am, because it'll tell me, what kind of leader are you? What's your presence like with your team? Or are you a leader who's going to be outspoken? Are you more reserved? And with Chandler and his answers when we got the interview, you'll hear him say things like, man, we want to come out here and help our team get a team win. You can see the presence and confidence. And that alpha dog mentality, he's got it. He's got it, man.
Yeah. He's a we guy for sure. He uses that phrase often. Okay, so we talked about Chandler Jackson. We love Anthony Black. You're going to see our top performers on the site. I feel like it's repeat every time that he comes to our events. I say the same things over and over and over again. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's an All-American. Duke was there. Carolina was there. The Blue Bloods were there. Shaka Smart was there for every single one of his games. Texas was there. Baylor was there. I mean, you go down the list, it was a head coach.
Everybody.
Yeah, Herbert Davis was there. He was there to see his guy Seth Trimble as well. But so many guys that really stepped up and wanted to see Anthony Black on the first day. So brand new head coach John Shire at Duke, the first guy that he came to see was Anthony Black. So that tells you a little something about how important that Anthony Black is to the Duke Blue Devils. So we saw that right there on the sidelines on court 15 for 3D Empire. Who else from the backcourt guards did you see that you really liked?
First time getting a chance to see Seth Trimble. for UNC. I want to take
Yeah, really? Oh, that's right, because you were with us.
Mhm.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Most impressive thing was, I guess, his ability to get where he wanted when he needed to.
Yeah.
Very strong upper body, not afraid of contact. But I did love how he got in the paint when he needed to, set guys up for some nice shots, and then his ability to get to the rim and convert. A lot of times we see guards like a Seth Trimble, at 6'2", it's not a 6'5", 6'6". However, he was able to not only get in the paint, but finish through contact, which is a skill that you got to be able to do when you're going against bigger players. Did so with ease. And again, his pace and feel for the game were really good as well. If it was pick and roll situations, he never got sped up. It's a player that you can see, okay, he's going to UNC because he can command the floor.
Yeah.
Look at guys in the past from UNC, most recent guys like Joel Berry. Seth Trimble can be that 3-4 year guy and then possibly have that kind of career longevity. You can see that, in my opinion, you can kind of see that same mold from Seth Trimble. So
he committed to North Carolina a week before the event. New North Carolina coach Herbert Davis was there front and center on the very first chance he could. He needed to see his new commitment in action, and he saw exactly what you talked about, and that's a really tough guy to stop downhill. Yeah. Any other guards? Anybody else that you like?
Oh, man, I got it, man. There's plenty of them, man. Here's a guy who I think was a little undersized, but I just love his swagger from the family, Keon Minifield Jr. Not the biggest guy at all, JY. He's not.
What's the name?
Keon Minifield Jr.
Okay.
The family. Not the biggest guy at all. But when you talk about guards that have, I guess I want to use like an electric trait. This dude was breaking down defenders left and right, had a hand on just about every rebound. Okay, JY is 6 feet. Again, you look at him and you think, okay, maybe he's not the biggest guard, but man, athleticism, hitting shots from the perimeter, a great floor general for the family to have, man. I was impressed because no matter who was size or anything, this kid was there. He was active on both sides of the ball. Long arms, long frame play to passing lanes. Just a great, another floor general backcourt that impressed me, man. He did.
It's interesting. His play, I thought, changed the whole dynamic of that family team, because that version of the family that we saw back in April in Louisville at the Grassroots Showcase, I think they struggled a little bit. And I think that was a whole different team that I saw in Atlanta for the Best of South. They played at a different level of competitiveness and productivity than I saw even back in Louisville in April. So I'm with you. His play, I thought, really helped turn the levels up for sure.
And I got one more for you, Joe. I got to throw this too, man. Elijah White, okay?
Yeah.
For the pro. Listen, if you're a college coach, man, this kid is what he should be on your radar. Athletic, like you said, like gets downhill. I mean, just you talk about a driver, a slasher. He's about 6'4", 6'5". Man, I was impressed with him, man. Again, you talk about a kid that competes, a kid that wants to win. He does a little bit of everything. I asked him in an interview, I was like, Elijah, like what did you appreciate best about being able to be out here Best of the South? He was like, man, I appreciated the chance to play in front of college coaches. He's like, for me, man, I just want a chance. And you could see that mentality affect his play when he was in the Florida Pro under Coach Marcus McGee, man. And again, if you needed an athletic wing, Elijah was it. Defending, rebounding, he does a bit of everything, man, indeed.
He was interesting because think about Florida Pro, right? Like in the springtime, I thought they were one of the 5 best teams in the country as an independent. I thought they were the best independent team in the country. The Thompson twins go inside, sign to go play professionally with overtime. The Hendricks twins are going to Central Florida. They had like 4 of their 5 starters are gone. They had to pivot their whole roster. And what does it do? It allows a guy like Elijah Weiss to take advantage and to step in. He's probably, I would argue, say he's probably the biggest stock booster that we saw from the Best of the South this year, where he went from a guy that was being recruited pretty well. Mm-hmm. I think he's leaving Atlanta, or left Atlanta, as one of the premier must-get guys in the Southeast. I'm with you. He was phenomenal, and that's a credit to Florida Pro, to pivoting and maintaining their level of excellence that they set so high for themselves in the spring. And they're carrying that over now into what should be a phenomenal July. We'll see them again down in Orlando as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, you think about Florida Pro, most times when you lose 2 top 10 guys out the country, you think a team will fall off like that. But nah, man, Elijah came to play.
For sure.
Okay, so we talked about backcourt a little bit. Jay, well, I did want to throw another wing on the table, man. And this is from these JH1 Elite, I want to make sure I get this right. Man, I was impressed. I think his name is Leon Bond. Leon Bond showed me some really good sides. I think he had an elbow injury, something at the very last game. But, I mean, JH1 Elite, they came to play, man. And Leon was a big piece of that. Again, you talk about long wing, does a little bit of everything, active. Coaches, I think you saw coaches there specifically, like I know Shaka Smart and his staff, they're checking him out at one time, and those games that happened that were bigger for JH1, that was hoping those bigger matchups, he stepped up.
Yeah.
Talk about that for a player, man. Leon Bond caught my attention as well. I want to make sure
he drew so many head coaches in to see him from really all over the place. I think Marquette, like you said, they were there every single game. Shaka Smart was there every single game. Shaka might have been there more than our entire staff was there. I think of the best of the South watching guys, but Leon, certainly he's a Milwaukee kid. Would be a huge score for them. I know I could go down the list. We had a lot of guys come in and see him. Well, I mean, we could think about it. I don't know if it's definitive, but I think Leon may have been the most versatile guy, especially on the defensive end.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Because you got to think about it. If you look at that JH1 team, they didn't have all the size as some of the other teams did. Yeah, you had Leon, you had a couple of pieces, but nobody was really 6'8", 6'9" plus. So Leon's guarding and doing a bit of everything on both sides, specifically the defensive end, and he's winning the matchups. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what I took note of.
His ability to switch and just go in and out and work off of ball screens and pick up guards, and he's going to translate really, really well. And the more I talked to coaches, the more I was like, everyone was like, that he's like a top 50 in the country. Like composites ranking says he's a top 150 kid. So there's another guy that I think if you look at a stock booster, I mean, he's already on the radar, but getting out of the Midwest and playing out of that space maybe has raised his profile a little bit more. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that's a great choice. I would argue too that he was probably the top. I don't know if he's a wing, but combo forward, that I saw as well.
And Jay, I want to put this point out there too for teams, in preparation for next year. But just one big thing about the stage, you talk about Elijah. You talk about Leon being a Midwest guy, right? Coming here, bringing attention from these Southeast schools, you get a chance to boost your recruitment in ways you couldn't by playing on staying in your area. And now not only are you getting coaches that will be following you from your area, now you get coaches in the Southeast, and Leon's an example of that, man.
Well, the ripple effect of that too is now that impacts your teammates.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's other guys on that team that I think will get a shot in the arm on their recruitment because the whispering have you seen number 35 or JH? Then you kind of make your way over to watch them, and then you're like, oh, well, who's number 1 over there?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's what the benefit is. And then now maybe you come in with the hyper local recruitment, and now you're coming home with maybe some schools out of your area that you didn't have before. So totally agree with you. Any other wings jump out at you?
Let me see, man. There were a bunch of guys, man. You had plenty of guys. I mean, you look at one guy in particular, and this is I'll give Sosa a little HSA love a little bit. Thomas Allard. Thomas Allard had some good outings. Through team space, Alabama Celeste. Kobe McAllister had a game where he torched the Nets. There a bunch of wings, man, and a bunch of guys that stepped up when it mattered most. And I don't want to be biased, man, Jay, I miss anybody out, but the play was that good. Yeah. It was that good, man.
It was. Let's pivot to big men. I thought we had a pretty good group of big men. Yeah. Or do you have anybody else?
I'm gonna let you go first. I'm gonna see who you say first, big man wise. I'm gonna let you my spin on that one.
Well, now I'm nervous to say because I don't want to steal your thunder. You may have some. You probably saw Team Florida more than me, but I thought the Team Florida duo. Am I stealing your thunder?
You know what?
I'm gonna get out your way. I'm gonna get out your way, man.
All right, cool. Hey, listen. Prince Basingo, Brennan Laureate. Listen, man, those two guys, we've seen them. We had the pleasure of watching them during the season. Man, they get better and better and better.
They do. They really do.
I was talking, I forgot who I was talking to, but I said, man, Prince is a Swiss Army knife. If you look at how he plays, on one end of the floor, he's battling their other team's got biggest big man. Then he's down on the other end. You see him in some pick and pop. I watched him in one game. It might have been a morning game on Friday. I don't know, but right off the gate, 2 back-to-back triples. And you see his versatility if he's able to knock down that 3 ball. Now, okay, he's showing signs of expanding his platform, his game. So you go from being maybe just a versatile forward that's great in the paint, strong and good finishes. Now you're stretching the floor a little bit. Now, okay, are you looking at a possible move to maybe being a 3? Possibly down the line. But I mean, Prince Masingo, man, is big. You got to talk about him, and you got to talk about Brennan as well, because they make up that two-headed twin towers for Team Florida, and it's almost, I don't want to say impossible to stop, but I mean, you have to key in on that matchup for both of those two.
Yeah, without a doubt. I thought they were probably the most watched bigs that we had in our 17U. I mean, a wide variety of schools came through and watched them: SEC, ACC, Big East, A10. I mean, you name it, people came through. And I think there's a lot of schools maybe in like the A10 or the CAA or Conference USA are like, oh man. Like, I always love when I hear from college coaches like, man, I hope my guy doesn't play well today.
That's a funny thing, man. Somebody was telling me that. I heard that from a college coach as well. Yeah. Man. They told me, man, hey, don't hope you don't have a great game. We want to keep him on our radar.
It's pretty great, man. It's pretty great. But yeah, I thought those guys were phenomenal. For me, I watched a number of 16 under games as well. We saw these guys. We saw mid-pro. I've already talked about them. I love that mid-pro 16 under team. Terrific. Owen Freeman from mid-pro is really good. 6'9". His recruitment right now is, again, we talk about hyper-local, hyper-regional. I would argue that almost every Big Ten school's probably offered him or has been in and seen him. We saw a ton of coaches come through and watch him, but we are also starting to see other schools come through. Like, he's a high-level student, so like if I'm a Stanford or Virginia or maybe even some Ivy Leagues, I may want to take a look at him. If I'm a program like Florida comes to mind, a program that uses their bigs, Clemson is similar in that regard with the types of bigs. Like, he's the type of kid now that I think maybe transcends the regional recruitment and draws in schools from some of these other programs. Owen Freeman, I think, is a bit of a throwback. I think he's an old school 5-man, but his post moves, his over the shoulder, his rebounding, his toughness. And you think about him as a college player, this dude's going to be 240 pounds of granite. So he's going to move some dudes around. And I thought Owen Freeman from mid-pro was exceptional. It was really, really good.
No, I agree 1,000%, man. I want to go ahead real quick. I'm going to throw a name out there just because I think he has continued to improve, and we saw him early on. Carpio, man. I just go back to him. I go back to him. He's 6'7",
Yeah.
But when you talk about a forward, man, that I think Tony Carpio might be the best leader big I've seen all season. The best big. And why I say that?
Like, how do you quantify that?
When you talk about some of the same traits when you talk about Chandler Jackson with Team Tab. Tony, you hear him every possession. He's talking all the time. If you listen to him in the huddle, he's communicating. When you got Coach Ben Miller, who sometimes really holds his guys really accountable, Tony's eyes are glued in. It's like he's your anchor for that Atlanta All-Stars team, and you see why. You get it down low to him, you can almost guarantee a bucket. Anytime a guy makes a shot, Tony's the first person to tell him good shot on the floor.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so impressed with him in his game. And you look and you see, okay, man, if he adds this layer, if he adds the jumper from the perimeter, but you started to see those things. JY, literally, man, 8:30 a.m. game. Tony is playing very well. I think early in the first half, he might have came out and had a light first half. But second half, he's on the rhythm. This guy catches it on the block and shoots a beautiful turnaround baseline fade. And I'm not talking about this is a lucky shot. No, this is I catch it, one bounce, two bounce, and you fading off to the baseline for a beautiful shot. You talk about his toolbox increasing, man, at 6'7". He has time to grow, man. You talk about a forward from a team that is an HSA team battling against shoe teams.
Yeah.
On his own. Tony,
I think he's a great example of why college coaches need to be back on the road and do recruiting, because you can watch all the film that you want and that'll tell you one story, but to see these things that you're talking about, you have to be in the gym. You have to be on the sidelines. You have to put this away for a little bit and get your eyes glued on all the action in the huddles. Maybe during the free throws, like, are they communicating? Like, those are the types of things that live in-person recruiting that we haven't had that luxury of having. And I think when you see that's when you start to move guys on your recruiting list, because you're like, oh, he's really vocal. He's a great teammate. He wants to win. He's competitive. And those are the types of things that I think that's what's so important. That's what we missed over the last 18 months. And it's so good to have those opportunities for guys, for college coaches to see and experience that, to help them make better decisions on the roster they're trying to build.
Man, always. And like you said, man, that's the benefit of these live period events. You can kind of start putting, Apple, like you always, your phrase, JY, apples to apples, man. Guys who are the top
Yeah.
here, match up against guys at the top here. And ultimately, you get to see who's who, and guys get a chance to boost their stock. I love that phrase, man.
What's that? Apples to apples?
Yeah, that's the Justin. That could be a HoopSeen shirt.
You know what? It's actually not a bad idea. Maybe we should turn that into a HoopSeen shirt. Let's talk about something real quick too. Let me get away from it. Like our vendor experience. Like if you walk through Hall C, like how many pieces of fudge did you have, by the way?
Man,
I know I had a ton.
Yo, fudge, anything you needed. It's like a flea market, JY. Anything you needed, you could have gotten it off of AirPods, chargers, beach. Man, it had everything, man. The food was amazing. You had coffee. Oh my gosh. One big thing though, Jay, what I really did love, man. Did you get a chance to see the Spalding booth?
Yeah.
Man, our partners at Spalding I think they did a pretty cool job. Everybody was able to get basketballs. They did a super sale, I'm guessing. And players are able to get basketballs. Players were able to look at some of the stuff like the Space Jam movie. They had some of the Space Jam stuff.
It sold out in 2 days.
2 days. JY, now mind you, every time I went back there, they were pumping air in the basketballs, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about being in the gym from 9 a.m. until last game was started at 7:50, each day. So it's like they're selling basketballs, and in 2 days they ran out.
Gone. Yeah, it was gone. Our partners at Point 3 had some great gear. Like I'm rocking a shirt here today. Got that tie-dye kit back at the back in the luggage still. I still need to unpack. My guy Tim Bickerstaff and his group with leg recovery. As the event got on, I told him, I was like, man, you need to save a spot for me. Dude, I was walking like 9.5 miles a day.
Hey, we need the boots, man.
Oh man, my hips. No lie, I'm literally gonna go get a massage today because I'm not a massage guy at all. But like my feet and my hips are killing me. So you got to recover, man. You got to recover. That's why I can't stop drinking enough water. Also, it's still hot in Phoenix, just in case you're wondering.
It's a lot hotter in Phoenix, man, than it is here. You picked a great state, brother.
It was hot. It was hot in the World Congress Center, meaning the action. I mean, it actually was really cold in there. The AC would work just fine. But like we have so much to do. We have so much content. As we're talking, my phone's blowing up. Our partners OST are sending me videos from the players that they've got recorded. Some highlight stuff that's gonna be coming through. We had Stan Johnson, we had Matt Laska, we had Brandon Anthony all taking pictures. We've got graphics. Our staff's got so many top performers, so many notebooks, so many things to do as we prepare for 2 events this weekend. One on here in Phoenix at the Valley Jam. It's going to be our first opportunity to run a team tournament here in the West. Really excited about that. It's bigger than the first ever Best of the South. So I'm really confident that the Valley Jam on the West Coast can one day be in the same light that we have with the Best of South. And that's the goal. And we're going to get there. Our team, Daniel and Ty and everybody else, is going to be up in Louisville for the Grassroots Showdown in Louisville, Kentucky. We're going back to the Kentucky Expo Center, another convention center event for our team. And we're going to wrap things up in Orlando for the Grassroots Basketball Summer Championship. I had a lot of teams that asked me, and college coaches, how is that going to be? Let me run through this really quick. Great. And I'll just leave it there. Okay. We're going to still have all of our top teams from the HSA. We're going to have all the top teams from NY to LA. We're going to have some selected teams from Hoop Group and their group up in the Northeast. And we're going to have a handful of selected and invited teams from the Adidas circuit. We may have a couple other surprises mixed in as well. We'll be in the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, Florida. So 3 weeks in a row, 3 convention centers. The best investment I ever made was the AirPod Pros and the noise canceling headphones, because the whistles are going to kill me by the end of the month. But man, what a week, man.
What a week, man.
What a month.
Let me tell you this, man. I'm like, for some reason, I'm like, man, I should just get me a team and I can have some guys come play with me.
You should. The HoopSeen All-Stars, man. Let's get it.
Yo, unbelievable, man. That's the words you can use. I mean, for me, I finally was able to kind of sit back on the very last day. And now, we had our desk, or not desk, but I guess you could say our
tournament center,
and I just sat there for a second, man. And it was really awesome for me to be able to look and see all the action going on. It's one thing when you're in it, you're bumping shoulders, dapping people up, watching games, taking notes. But then when you have a quick second to sit back and you see, man, like all these people are here. And our brand is the one that was able to connect all this. It's incredible, Jay.
It was really cool. I got home really late last night. So it was maybe like 11 o'clock. here. And so it was 3 hours behind. So that would be what, 2:00 in the morning. And I got a text maybe from Mike or Ty. I don't know who sent it. I was too tired to really check and see, but basically the text was, what did we just pull off? Right. Like, so somebody else had that same realization as you at 2-something in the morning, like what just happened in downtown. And the fun part is, Austin, it's going to continue to get bigger. It's going to continue to get better. We are going to continue to get better at the offering that we give teams. But man, that was the single largest event ever under one roof for men's basketball in the recruiting live period era, according to the NCAA. And that's something that I'm so proud of our team and the work that they put in to make sure that that's effortless. We honestly, there was some, typical stuff that happens in the tournaments, but we didn't have any problems. There was nothing catastrophic throughout the entire event. Now, again, some things happened. Some guys got hurt and stuff like that. Like, that's the nature when you have 517 teams. You hate to see that. But like, man, that thing went on without a hitch. And I think everybody that came had a great time. So if you're still watching all the way through this pod, man, we appreciate you guys so much for coming out. Appreciate you spending some time with us. We appreciate you trying to find parking. We know the walks were pretty long. We were right there with you. Trust me, the long wait times. Hopefully next summer, all of downtown Atlanta will be open and back to full spring. But as that process of all of us getting back to some normalcy, it sure felt really normal at the Best of South this year in downtown Atlanta.
Man, without question, again, everyone, thank you all, man. This event was phenomenal. On behalf of Justin and our entire staff, thank you. Jay Watt, man, that wraps up this episode, and I think it might be time for a nap.
Bro, I was about to say the same thing. I could feel my energy, like, just not really high. But I think this is about as high as my energy is going to get for the rest of the day.
Indeed, brother. Indeed. Well, man, thanks for your time. Everyone, thanks for tuning in to episode number 14 of Just a Minute. As always, I'm your HoopSeen host, and the man with the plan next to me is our editor-in-chief here at HoopSeen.com, Justin Young. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see y'all soon.